rongo ki te tangi a te korimako. Kōrero flowing out the hooker force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds, kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā ko nā whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira whakarongo pi kari mai. Hare mai, o Taringa hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody. Gather up close everybody. Kani move that body. Kani move that body.
Tēnei te reo whakamānawa rere nei runga i ngā hau o te wā. Huri noa i te ika Māui whakawhiti i te moana. O rau kaua ki te wai pounamu whakawhiti i te moana tāwhaki, te moana tā pokopoko, te moana nui a kiwa, me ngā moana katoa.
O te ao.
E te iwi and coming at you all the way over there, Guernsey. Tēnā koutou, because I know we've got some listeners over there. Tēnā koutou, e te iwi ko Taringa tēnei, e mihi ake nei, tēnā rā koutou, nau mai, hoki mai. Ane, ki te punua pāho, e whakapāho atu ana i te pokapū o Taringa. And I've got the mauri today, e te iwi,
Rongo.
in the bustling metropolis of Te Awamutu. And Kaurangi is coming in from...
Didn't we say the bubbling metropolis?
Oh, yes, the bubbling metropolis of
Yes.
Rotorua.
Ai.
And tēnei te huri ake ki a koe kei te manuhiri. JJ, tēnā koe, nau mai haere mai ane ki a Taringa.
Hey, tēnā koe, paraone, kahurangi, koutou mā, tēnā tātou katoa.
Kia ora e hoa.
Tēnā koe, and I'm going to chuck it back over to you soon e te manuhiri, e te rangatira. Engari, e te iwi, nau mai, haere mai, hoki mai, and we should give thanks to te māngai pāho and irirangi te motu.
Tēnā kōrero.
Tēnā rawati kōrero. And of course, coming at you from Te Wānanga o Aotearoa, Te Wānanga o Aotearoa, Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. If you haven't enrolled, good luck, because a lot of the reo courses I know have already filled up.
Amazing.
But, you know, you might be lucky, but you might want to jump on computing or something like that. Kei koe te tikanga. Engari, kei ware koutou, he mea manaki tēnei nā Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. Nō reira, tēnei te mihi.
Ai.
Nō reira, e te whānau, ko tēnei terenga o Taringa e whakaputa atu nei, hōtaka whakamānau atu ana i te rā o Waitangi.
Yes.
And I was saying to our kai kōrero, our manuhiri today, that previously the Puhaeri, myself and Erica would go away, do some research. We've actually done a matatini episode on Waitangi. We've looked at compositions.
Oh, nice.
So we've had all sorts of perspectives. And then i te rātou, we had the tuahine from Te Whānā Apanui and Ngāti Porou. They'll come in and talk about Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Is highly inspiring. And today we got you, bro.
Oh, we.
You know, no pressure.
No pressure.
And as I said, e te iwi, we're opening up a space of wānanga i tēnei rā. Because, you know, we're not going to be talking about things that you can just Google or go on tearaencyclopedia.co.nz. Nah, we're past that. Go back to our previous episodes, ne? Ka hoki mai ai ki tēnei, ne? But keep listening and then go back and then go forward and go all over the place, ne? Kei a koe te tikanga. Engari tēnei rā, he wānanga i te tiriti o Waitangi, and no māua o tira, no Taringa te Waimarie, kua tai mai tēnei manuhiri, ki te wānanga i te kaupapa nei. Nō reira, JJ, ka tukua te rākau ki a koe, mau e whakamohio mai, ko wai koe, no whea koe, ahatu, kei a koe.
Ka pai, ai he uri ahau o Ngāti Kahungunu ki Wairarapa, arangi tāne hoki, te taho tūku kōka no te tai rāwhiti, ko te whānau atu whakairiora, ko Ngāti Rangi ngā hapu. And my father, this is where we get the Carberry name from. We're from, two counties in Ireland, one called Letterkenny and the other one called County Clare.
Oh, okay, I've heard of that one.
Yeah. This is my Pākehā tupuna came over here in the 1870s and started building railroads. So brought over as labourers and, but nevertheless, I was born and raised in the Wairarapa.
Tēnā koe. Oh, and are you supporting your kapa this year?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Just spent some time with a couple of them last night at our marae trustee hui meeting.
Oh, nice one.
Awesome.
And they're keen. I can't wait because I got this feeling.
Yep.
I've got a feeling.
I can feel it. I can feel it.
No, it's very awesome to see the kapa on Te Matatini.
It's that time, mate.
Absolutely.
And Kaurangi, you were getting ready. Oh, kōrero koa tū koe. Yeah. Kiwaha. Okay, e te whānau. Kiwaha hou. It's an old, new one. Bit of an oxymoron there.
I see what you did there.
And just to set some context, Tēnei kiwaha no roto mai a tainui waka. And, you know, many of our kiwaha, as per our wānanga over many kiwaha sessions we've had on Taringa, are from particular iwi, but they've been popularised, normalised, socialised, and they've been spoken. And koera te mea nui. And a lot of the time, you may not know the origin of kiwaha. Nera. Don't get too many hang-ups about that. And we've always said on Taringa, te mutungi ho ke a koe te tikanga. It's up to you. At the end of the day, it's up to you whether you're going to use the kiwaha or not. But I would say,
yes,
if you are tainui, then you might be partial to this one. Oia no, ke a koe te tikanga. So anei te kiwaha I ngā rā o matire.
I ngā rā o...
I ngā rā o matire.
Matire.
And just to set the context, last week I tētahi Wānanga mātou ko te whare kōrero o Raukawa.
Yes.
And we visited one of the marae of Ngāti Koroki Kahukura in the area of Karapiro. So I know many of you come up to Wakaama and Karapiro. So that's the area of Ngāti Koroki Kahukura. You've also got Ngāti Haua there. You've also got Raukawa there as well. Engari, the side of the river I'm talking about, which is the south bank of the river, is Ngāti Koroki Kahukura. And anyway, we went to one of the marae, Maunga Tautari and Rahui spoke there. And, you know, tino ōpaki nei, we're very informal, sitting around like whānau, listening to the kōrero. And then we sung a very well-known song that we featured on Taringa called Ngā Rā o Hune. I've got to give you the whole whakapapa.
Oh, ai, raku.
Which is about the conscription during World War I. So many of our tāne and tainui didn't go into World War I because you've got to remember, only 50 years before were the land wars.
True.
So we still had a lot of tupuna that were alive during the time of the conscription in World War I. Anyway, and there was the song that we still sing today called Ngā Rā o Hune. Goes, Ngā Rā o Hune kāra te pakanga ki roto wai kato kāriro ko te rau me tōna hoko whitu tūri ātura te tatau o te whare o te hoariri. And there's like another 8 verses. Now there's a hidden verse.
Oh.
Yes.
How high e noho huna ana?
Aua, it must be in the confines of the Vatican Library, I reckon. Engari, there's a hidden verse. Anyway, I'm not going to sing that whole verse, but the last line of that verse mentions Ngā Rā o Matire. And I rango nau te rārangi nei, and I asked Rahui, I said, how te tikanga o tērā rārangi? And he said, oh, it means, according to Uncle Pumi Taituha, it's like saying, a tōna wā.
Right.
So there will be a time. Ne, koera, a tōna wā. So we know that one. A tōna wā, you know, there'll be a time. A tōna wā, ka kitea tō whaia. There'll be a time when you'll see your mother. Hopefully you've seen it before there, but you know what I mean. A tōna wā, ka mōhio koe ki ngā kōrero. There will be a time when you will know. So, I ngā rā o matire, ka mōhio koe ki ngā kōrero. Ne? Hei ngā rā o matire. So, I ngā rā would have been I tōna wā.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Hei ngā rā.
Hei ngā rā or kei ngā rā, if you're doing the tainui tūreo, because a lot of us use the kei here, will be in good time or there will become a time. So, yep. Kei ngā rā o matire mōhio ai ko ai te toa o te matatini.
Nā.
Hei ngā rā o matire, rawe.
Yep.
Engari.
Ngā rā o matire. Don't ask me kaurangi who matire is.
You knew that was coming.
But interestingly, I te wā e kōrero mai ana Rahui i te waiata nei, ngā huia was in the car, taku wahine, and she has a strong Ngāti Koroki Kahukura connection, and it's her kuia's name is Matire. So she's like, oh. So luckily we had a waiata and this kiwaha just came out on Thursday. So there you go. And that's what I'm saying. It's a new old one.
Yeah, okay.
Awesome.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Tēnā koe.
Yeah, you know, he mama, you could even say, like, oh, when you going to the gym?
Right.
Hei ngā rā o matire.
Is that true for you there, Mr. Gloin?
Yep, I haven't been back to the gym yet. That's another story. Bueno, that's where you can use the kiwaha as a standalone kiwaha, and I'd grade it as a 1 on the 1 to 5 scale.
Yes, sure.
But if you put it into a sentence, then you'll sort of get into a 3, 4, 5.
Ka pai.
Yep. I ngā rā o matire, wā kua huri.
Hei ngā rā.
And hei ngā rā o matire would be...
No.
Even, actually, you could even say I ngā rā, because depending on context for the future coming, koutou e mōhio ana. Yeah. Hoi anō, koera te kiwa.
Kiwa. I pai tērā, tēnā koe.
Ush.
Tēnā koutou, te aha te whare kōrero o...
O Raukawa.
Ai, pai. Tēnā koutou.
Ka pai. And, you know, there's of you that affiliate to Raukawa, yes, well, registrations for next year's one will be going up at the end of the year. But kūrero is in April, so there you go, and it's open to everybody, so no mai haere mai.
Yes.
Kaupapa atu, kaupapa mai.
Ka pai.
Ana, hoi anō.
Ka rongi.
Ko takoto e rā kōrero, engari, JJ, tēnā koe e tōai nei ngā mihi ki a koe. Ko tai mai, māringa nui a taringa i a koe, no reira tēnā rau atu koe. And I know it was meant to be a double barrel today. It was going to be yourself, kōrua ko Veronica, tāwhai. Engari, i tēnei rā, ka mātua i a koe. You've got it, e hoa. We're going to have a wānanga about Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and kei a koe te tikanga ki whea tātou kōrero rere ai. So up to you, really. Where do you want to take us this morning?
Well, you know, I suppose we should start with your kiwaha and some of those origins, you know, because everyone's really sort of connected to Te Tiriti o Waitangi. And what that means for us is not only individuals, but also in terms of our, you know, community commitments and obligations, responsibilities.
Kia ora.
But I remember, for me, that desire and that drive to want to learn about, you know, everything to do with colonial history here, Te Tiriti o Waitangi, the Treaty of Waitangi, you know, relationships between Māori and Pākehā. These were born out of things like reading the autobiography of Te Puia Herangi.
Yes, kia ora.
And books like Paparangi Nui Walker's Ka Whawhaitonu Mātou, and having read them at such a young age. Well, you know, you would have to prep your babies to sort of read these things because we just got given them and read them, and then you just let the fire burn, you know. And it's not until you get a bit older that you're able to contextualize these things. You're able to learn a bit more and develop a little bit more aroha, I guess, around talking about Te Tiriti o Waitangi, teaching,
Tika.
etc. But we can talk about whatever. I notice... For those of you who aren't aware, stage 2 of Te Paparahi o Te Raki report has been released last week. Amazing reading, whānau. So that's one of the things about treaty education today, is that the amount of information and facts that we have available to us now, thanks to all of that research coming out of the Waitangi Tribunal in the form of reports, people's claims, for those that don't have reports, all of this information is now available to us.
Yeah.
We can access it, we can wānanga on it, and we can also have kōrero that is specific to different hapu, different iwi, different regions. And that, again, is so important in terms of the mahi that we're doing in this space.
Yeah, tika tawe hoa.
Because how colonisation happened in the Wairarapa and our Tiriti story is quite different from how it happened in Taranaki, and then again how it happened at Upokorehe or how it happened at Ngāpuhi, you know. And that intimate kōrero we have far more access to than what we would have in the past. And so consequently we can wānanga on it.
Ai. Hey, e hoa, tell us about the mahi that you do at Massey University. So you're a Tiriti o Waitangi specialist. What is that, and how, tell us about some of the mahi that you're doing there and how you kind of, you know, for a lot of people, I think sometimes when we talk about Te Tiriti, it kind of goes over our head a little bit, ne? And I'm sure part of the mahi that you do is breaking it down and really explaining it so that, you know, ka tino marama ki a tātou te iwi. But yeah, firstly, I guess, tell us about the mahi that you're doing at Massey.
I finished up at Massey last year. I had lectured there for 5 years on, you know, in our Te Kawenato Te Tiriti o Waitangi paper.
Wow.
And also in politics and policy generally at Te Pūtahi a Toi. And then last year assisted Ronnie as a treaty advisor to the Office of the DVC Māori. It's Mehana.
Awesome.
Wow.
A lot of that mahi really revolves around the desire for mainstream institutions to be a little bit more real, if you like. The days of tokenism and box ticking, even Pākehā within these institutions realise, oh man, this is, you know, they're kind of over it.
Yeah.
So that aspiration to be more real and legitimate and to get rid of all this, well, you know, Ronnie and I refer to as treaty fluff.
Yes.
Give us an example of treaty fluff.
Treaty fluff is, you know, you might work in these institutions, particularly any government institutions or educational institutions that have what you call they might have treaty proclamations or treaty statements or, they've made these commitments on paper.
Yeah, what about teams? Like I've noticed in like tertiary institutions, they're starting to call them like treaty-led or tiriti partner, like managers to actually manage how they work with, anyway, haere tonu.
Yeah, so take a university, for instance, Kahurangi, where they make a treaty commitment or a tiriti commitment. They can make these really broad statements and they attract a lot of attention and media attention, and there's these great aspirations around it. But what it actually looks like, where the rubber meets the road, this is where the transition is happening. The days of making these really grand statements around what you're going to do with regards to Te Tiriti or Waitangi and our obligations and responsibilities there, they're gone beyond just words now. And so there must be a commitment to actually how are we operationalizing, how are we committing to the provisions of Te Tiriti or Waitangi.
Kia ora.
The provisions as opposed to what has dominated that discourse over recent decades is this sort of discussion around principles.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's puku kore, eh?
Yeah.
The principles.
Yeah, definitely. Our people are aware of the extent to which treaty principles have been used as a means of reinterpreting or redefining what the actual provisions are in Te Tiriti or Waitangi. These are the things that our tupuna committed to, and yet through principles, the principles are often a means of reinterpreting Te Tiriti or Waitangi in a manner that suits the status quo, particularly when it comes to the existing constitutional structure. Right? So Westminster system, Parliament, all of that kind of thing. And, we have great allies who have done analysis on this. Jane Kelsey has always reiterated the fact that whenever the Crown looks to investigate or give some attention to constitutional structure, they'll never consider anything that's outside of their decision-making powers. And, we've seen this in terms of the response to the He Puapua report.
Yeah, yes.
We've seen this, Māori have seen this for decades in terms of anything in relation to rangatiratanga. A lot of policies that have come out of Parliament in the past, the central government have often had rangatiratanga components to them. However, that component has been often avoided or not discussed or not brought up, and we've gone on with some other aspect of a policy approach that doesn't require we look into those things. These are the discussions that people are having now around Te Tiriti or Waitangi, and we're very fortunate to live in a time where, one, our society's kind of over all the tokenistic stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying everyone is. Obviously, there's still lots of pockets around Aotearoa where tokenism is suiting people just fine. For the most part, the people we've worked with, and this includes at places like Massey University, there's a lot for people to learn, because obviously when they say they're committed to Te Tiriti or Waitangi, in a place like a university, this affects everything. It's ethics.
Yeah.
This affects, who you can have in your interview for your PhD interview.
Right.
It affects everything. It's around, tikanga and kawa of universities. And often I don't think people are conscious of this when they make these commitments at governance levels. But because they make them, well, then we can challenge them. We can hold them accountable.
Kia ora.
And if anything, that's one of the things that our tupuna have done consistently is continue to hold our treaty partners to account, particularly where they've made promises and then gone on to, in many cases, do the opposite.
Kia ora.
Tika.
But I just want to pick up on I ki koe i te timatanga o te kōrero, something that's sort of like resonated with me is delivering on the provisions and stop talking about principles.
Yep.
And that was one of the Wānanga last year, definitely around the principles, because that's pretty, and that's treaty fluff.
Fluff.
So, for the kazi's at home listening to Taringa or driving in their car at the moment, what are those provisions? When we talk about the provisions of Te Tiriti or Waitangi.
If you imagine whānau, in that period of time leading up to 1840, tupuna, particularly those in the north, by this time various historians have described Māori as cosmopolitan. And this really confronts a lot of the ideas that we might have been taught about our tupuna pre-1840. And so the importance of looking at that period of time leading up to 1840 is it allows us to confront a lot of those dehumanizing ideas around our tupuna.
Kia ora.
And secondly, it allows us to understand, hey, what is Te Tiriti o Waitangi about? Because these 4 articles, they're not there by accident. They are addressing either concerns, aspirations, desires of the day. So, for instance, in Article 1, the provision of kāwanatanga, whānau, read Stage 2 report of Te Paparahi o Te Raki, or you can read a book called Ngāpuhi Speaks, if you want to get a clear understanding around what kāwanatanga meant at this time. So if you consider in 1840, whānau, there are 2,000 Pākehā that are living here in Aotearoa, and around 250,000 Māori. And of these Pākehā, some of them have become Pākehā Māori.
Kia ora.
Yeah.
Some of us would have tupuna that are Pākehā Māori.
No.
These are Pākehā, often many of them have jumped off ships and they are living in hapu, as a member of those hapu. And they love to live like that. However, there are others that are sort of coming here, they're seasonal, they're coming to get things like harakeke, they're coming to get kauri, they're coming for stores, all of these types of things. And they're sort of treating Aotearoa like a bit of a frontier, a wild frontier. And they're not abiding by tikanga and kawa, but nor are they abiding by British law. So those ancestors in the north figuring out ways to try and deal with them. So we can deal with them, you know, we can just apply tikanga and our kawa and deal with them. However, there's a mutual benefit to this developing relationship and it's based on trade.
Yo.
And it's probably not a good thing because some of these fellas are, you know, they come with a particular attitude and that is sort of this white supremacist attitude that's been sort of breeding in Europe for several hundreds of years before it arrives here.
Kino.
You would have had, I don't know if you have had Tina Ngata or in the past if you had Papa Moana on, they would have discussed the impact of the doctrines of discovery on the ethos of our Pākehā ancestors that came here. But many of them are behaving with that sort of arrogant attitude. And so we're looking for ways to be able to address them whilst preserving this developing relationship with Britain, which is based on trade. And so to allow a kāwana, that is a governor, to live here, to be placed here, to apply British law to those Pākehās that are behaving lawlessly, this is what's provided for in Article 1 of Te Tiriti o Waitangi, the provision of kāwanatanga. So we give the right for a kāwana to be here, that is one governor,
Kia ora.
to apply British law to British subjects that are living here. And the idea of a kāwana whānau, for those of us that got taught Te Tiriti o Waitangi at school, or the treaty, we were taught that, there's lots and lots of stories. Whānau, kāwanatanga was made up on the day.
Yes.
They didn't have a word.
Yes. This is cool, bro.
You heard any of these?
Yep.
These are the ideas, missionaries didn't quite know, so they just used that word. The problem with us accepting that narrative, whānau, is that it requires us to think and believe and accept that our tupuna read a word that they didn't know, that they were giving to a wahine on the other side of the world,
Kia ora.
and that we just did it anyway.
Yep.
And that requires a real dehumanized view of our ancestors.
Tēnā koe.
And one that we can't tolerate. We know better than that. And so kāwanatanga is given. This is one of the provisions in Article 1. Well, it is the provision in Article 1. The provision of kāwanatanga given to the Queen. We know that our tupuna understand kāwanatanga to mean a governor. There's lots of evidence. Kāwana's used right throughout Te Paipera Tapu.
Kia ora.
And their letters and everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Te Pahi, one of the tupuna from the north, 1805, travels to Sydney and lives as a guest of the governor for 3 months. And he says to him, Governor King, hey, Governor King, I understand you fellas must have some tikanga and kawa. Explain to me your laws and your customs. This is in 1805. And when Te Pahi comes back,
Wow.
he shares that information.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things he does too, when Te Pahi's in Sydney, whānau, he gets invited to this court case to watch the sentencing of 2 men that had stolen a pig.
Okay.
So he's dining on the ship and the dignitaries and the governor there are explaining to him property laws.
Yeah.
And they explain to him what happens if you steal food. And they say, you know, if you get caught stealing food, you can be hung.
Yeah.
And he turns around and he says to them, really? So you can kill a man for stealing food? Well, if that's the case, we need to kill the captain of the ship. Because when he was in New Zealand, he stole my potatoes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, they weren't expecting such an astute response.
Yes.
But of course, this isn't what they were meaning. But nevertheless, this example is one of the first times where our tupuna learn, you know, our British friends, they do have laws. They're just a little bit inconsistent
Ai,
Yeah.
kia ora.
around the way they apply those laws.
Ai.
And so Te Pahi goes to the court case, really quick, ka whānau, he goes to the court case on the Friday, watches the sentencing of these two men
Yep.
for stealing pork. They're sentenced to death. They're to be hung. And when Te Pahi hears this, in the accounts I've read, whānau, in every account I've read, he breaks down and cries. And he walks across the floor of the courthouse. He embraces the two prisoners. He then accompanies them back to their prison cell. And he tonos for their lives with the governor. So as a consequence, the governor cancels their execution.
Whoa.
You know, what cracks me up is that their ude would be running around Sydney now.
Yeah.
You know, and I think to myself, they're probably boy racers or something. And, you know, they would have they'd be none the wiser as to this, this kōrero, you know, and the importance of, so by 1811, Jane Marsden, who's the daughter of Samuel Marsden, what she says in her memoirs is by 1811, the sight of a New Zealander in Port Jackson is so common that it barely warrants a second glance.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
Barely warrants a second glance. That's how much our people are engaging there. And the whole basis of that is trade.
Yes.
Trade and education. We found out about this wide new world and we want to play. And so the provisions in Te Tiriti o Waitangi, Article 1, kāwanatanga, allows for just the dealing of some of the rascals we've got here. And Article 2, the guaranteeing of our rangatiratanga.
Yeah.
It's another important provision, whānau, because many New Zealanders think that Māori rights come from Te Tiriti o Waitangi. They don't.
Kia ora.
Te Tiriti o Waitangi just reaffirms them.
Yes.
Yeah.
They already exist.
Yes.
Yep.
It's important for people to be really clear about that. Article 2 is not where Māori get our rights from. It's just an affirmation, reaffirms what already exists and that it will not be impinged upon. It will continue into the future.
Tēnā koe. There you go, e te whānau.
One thing that I personally don't understand much about, but I hear it almost like a buzzword recently. I don't know, but I haven't ever had a good definition of this or how and when it should be used. But tangata tiriti has been thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
Like we know what tangata whenua is, ka pai, but a lot of our Pākehā, a lot of our good Pākehā are using the term, you know, tangata tiriti aho. In fact, they introduce themselves like that. Like, can you tell us more about what you think that is, or etahi kōrero mō tērā?
Yeah, kia ora kahurangi.
Yeah, rawe tēnā kōrero.
What a beautiful question, yeah. And, you know, personally, I think it's a particular āhua of a Pākehā person. Regardless of their education level, regardless of how much they know about history, they have a particular āhua about them. And I remember going down, we went to Whaingaroa and we met with some of our Pākehā treaty educators, some of whom are our mentors, Papa Tim Howard, Catherine Delahante, and others. And they shared with us a really beautiful whakaaro. And that was that in their endeavours, they are hoping to be the types of Pākehā that our rangatira thought they were signing a treaty with.
Wow. Ka mutu pea. Yep.
Yeah. And so as a guiding philosophy, I think that's sort of an essential aspect to the notion of what is tangata tiriti.
Tēnā
Kia
koe.
ora.
And also that tangata tiriti aren't just our Pākehā allies.
Kia ora.
Yes, kia ora.
Asians for tino rangatiratanga.
Kia ora.
We have a growing awareness amongst our Middle Eastern population. And we've done mahi with Ministry for Ethnic Communities. They're now looking at translations of Te Tiriti o Waitangi into their reo, because one of the things that have happened is that they've translated the Treaty of Waitangi into their reo. And now it's dawned on them, actually, the Treaty of Waitangi and Te Tiriti of Waitangi are two different documents.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Yeah.
And so when we have a growing awareness amongst our migrant populations, and many of them come from territories and lands that are not unfamiliar with the process that we've been through here in Aotearoa. And in fact, in treaty workshops, they're often the easiest learners, whānau, because they just, you get halfway through day one and they just go, oh yeah, I see what's happened here.
They get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get it.
Same different country.
Yeah, but no baggage. Yeah. That notion of whanga te tiriti, I think it's a legitimate notion. I don't think it's a fluffy thing. I think it's an aspiration. I think there are people out there that have been and continue to work for that vision.
Aye.
That is a society that is based on a recognition of he whakaputanga
Kia ora.
and te tiriti o Waitangi. And that te tiriti o Waitangi whānau is a framework in and of itself that can be applied in any context.
He rawerawa atu tēnā pātai kaurangi, because, etahi wā, I've thought that. But JJ, you just nailed it. I mean, koe rā te whakamāramatanga, to be the people, the person that our tūpuna initially envisioned them to be.
Aye.
Yeah. Yeah.
I roto I te tiriti.
Yeah.
Who they thought they were going into partnership with.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could actually just drop the mic now.
Boom. And that.
That was a mic drop moment.
I mean, it's a beautiful sentiment, but like all sentiments, unless there's mahi behind it, and fortunately for us, we have, beautiful Pākehā allies, tauiwi allies that are in the mahi, man. They're in the mahi. They have different responsibilities, but they're meeting them, and that is mainly around holding their own people accountable.
Yes.
And educating them. And
Yeah.
these were the things that the generation before us were asking. This was one of the great lessons that came out of the Springbok tour, where you had Māori and Pākehā marching side by side against apartheid,
Aye.
and then Māori turning around to their Pākehā allies and saying, oh, you're anti-racism, really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, what are you doing about here?
Yes.
And, in the early 80s, this struck a number of our Pākehā people by surprise, because up until then, New Zealand had done a really great job of convincing the rest of the world that, Parani, I don't know if you remember, or Kahurangi, there used to be a phrase, New Zealand has the best race relations in the world.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the world, yeah.
Tērā pōhehe.
That was just a myth, really.
Oh, absolutely. And so those things they were confronted then, all that political autonomy in action, the likes of Ngā Tamatoa, the likes of Polynesian Panthers, all those challenges around takatapui rights, 70s, 80s, land rights, te reo Māori petitions, all of this political energy that was autonomous. The government had no control over it. And its potential for creating, change was massive. And it did do that. It confronted our perception of ourselves as, having the most, the best race relations in the world. We actually used to skite about it, whānau. I don't know if you're aware of this. We used to skite, particularly to the Australians. Hey, what are you fellas doing,
Look at us.
You fellas need to sort out your relationship with ngā tangata moi ia. And we were of no better.
Rawe ngā kōrero. Ewa, I'm looking at the, tino rangatiratanga I muri a koe, and, I mahu e taku mihi ki a te whai ka ngaro.
Tēnā koe.
Koia tētahi o ngā toa. Ara no atu. I think of ngā wāhine whakapaukaha. Whina, Eva, Tita Whai. You mentioned Moana, Moe Mai. And then currently you've got people like yourself, Tina, Dale, others. What about little old me? A lot of our whānau are watching, they see things on the news, well, probably mostly on social media these days. And I know a lot of Māori and tangata tiriti, or those that are aspiring to be tangata tiriti, are wondering, do I need to be in that protest line? What can little old me do to promulgate the provisions of the tiriti o Waitangi, bringing it into fruition? I guess this is my pātai. You know what I mean? Te wairoa taku pātai. I know a lot of Māori will be thinking that.
Aye.
Do I need to go to Waitangi every year? What can I do at home? what can I do in my space? Because it's bringing it back to a roots level. I mean, a lot of our whānau have never been to, probably all they know of is they may have had something to do with Waitangi Tribunal or not. And they've got a lot of whānau who aren't connected to their iwi and marae.
Yep.
So, hea e tehi kōrero ki tērā hunga?
My response to that, Parang, is, resistance comes in many forms. And what you're doing, Kahurangi, Joe, and others involved with Taringa, this is a form of resistance.
Yeah, kia ora.
What our nannies and our cousins and our uncles and all of those who are getting ready for matatini, this is a form of resistance.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Being able to keep our marae alive so that our people can come back home, whether it's for whatever occasion. All of those whānau that are out there keeping your marae alive, making ssure the sheets are there for the next manuhiri to come in.
Yes,
Beautiful.
Yes,
Kai, all of these things. If you're working at kohangare or kura kaupapa, if you're, you don't have to be a treaty expert or even involved in things of that nature, you don't need a university education. None of our tupuna had university educations back in 1840, but yet exercising of tino rangatiratanga, absolutely.
Aye.
Kia ora.
And so I think, and this is just my view, the exercise of rangatiratanga is a collective focus. Ne?
Yeah.
Sometimes we hear people use rangatiratanga in regards to the individual. And whilst this may be a view, from a treaty perspective, rangatiratanga is the political autonomy of Māori collectives.
Aye, thank you.
That is who rangatira have signed on behalf of.
Tēnā koe.
And so if you are committed to the revitalisation of te reo Māori, if you are committed to the maintenance of your whenua, of your marae, if you are involved in community things that allow for our people in their homes to have dignity, to have kai, to have aspirations beyond what might be the limitations around them, then you come from that wairua.
Aye.
That is of our tupuna who had aspirations and dreams, and that Te Tiriti or Waitangi was intended to provide for. So I appreciate that question, Kazi, because, sometimes we think, we've got to be on the front line of a march or at a protest or, and if you're not doing that, rubbish.
Yep.
Rubbish.
Beautiful.
And in fact, a lot of the mahi that gets done, there's people that have done that. Whaia Hilda's a perfect example.
Yeah.
She's been out there, out the front of all of that stuff. And now, kura kaupapa,
Yes.
whare kura, education, all of those things. So people might go through transition periods. Where I was when I was 18 years old, quite different to where I am at 45 years old.
Yes.
And we shouldn't judge ourselves too harshly, whānau, for some of the ways we might have thought when we were a bit younger. There's room for us all in this movement, and most of us are all doing it. I think one of the areas where we can be a little bit better is in opportunities to whakamana each other.
Kia ora.
And, and to model that behaviour. Because we've become, what tends to happen, they refer to this in academics as it's a form of violence, horizontal or lateral violence.
Right.
And it's a feature of a people who have politically been suppressed, and so we learn not to challenge power vertically. And so all of that energy ends up going across us.
Yes.
And we become really embroiled in, looking for faults in ourselves and our own processes.
Kōrero.
Yeah, and I just think, what a waste of energy.
Ono.
Of all the things we have in front of us, the challenges, and we waste a bit of energy in those kinds of things. And I just think we can really improve in that space.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. Kia ora. Anei ahau e whakai atu nei.
Gather up close, everybody.
But what about you fellas? You've been this kaupapa, Te Tiriti or Waitangi, you would have learnt about what education did you get on this in the past, or
Kia ora.
at all, at high school or anything like that?
Back in my time,
Got the mandatory handout.
Aye.
Later on, a couple of photocopies of Claudia Orange.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Koinei taku mihi, because the space that we can Wānanga in now, and then koinei taku mihi is I've seen the growth in terms of critical awareness, māramatanga, and being able to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, we passed the koinei ngā kōrero e pirangi ana te iwi te rongo, te mōhio. And bro, honestly, I think you've wrapped it up really, really nicely in our time together. I mean, I had a few goosebump moments.
Yes,
Apoi.
ai marika. And I love the way that you've actually positively talked about it for our whānau to actually, that it isn't such a far away thing, that we are already participating in ways that kind of empower us as Māori. Like when you're talking about, you know, these are forms of resistance or these are forms of empowerment for Māori as well. I tino rongoa hau I tērā. And when you ask the question about kind of what are some of the things that we learnt, well, yeah, at kura, I mean, e konga noiho, e tahi o ngā kōrero I tuku, but that's what they wanted to teach us about Te Tiriti. But as we get older, it's about, okay, what does it actually mean? And, you know, I think about some of the celebrations that are probably happening around the motu at the moment.
Yep.
And I had to say to some of the things that we're doing here in Rotorua, I mean, there's only one or two now and again, but I kind of sometimes think that, you know, what are we celebrating? Are we just putting on a market and a whakangahau and a something just because it's te rā Waitangi? Like, are we having discussions about this? Are we having Wānanga?
Yes.
What are we teaching our tamariki? And I think those are some of the things that we need to encourage our whānau to do, like even at the dinner table, you know, actually talking about what it means rather than just having a celebration because, oh, you know, we've got a day off. He mea nui kia ata Wānanga hia tērā. And that's what this is, what you've done for us today, e hoa, e tino whakahihiko ia mātou ki tērā āhuatanga. Ka nui taku mihi.
Pono, e tautoko katoa nei e rā mihi. And, you know, just to bring it down to a root whānau level, there's lots of kōrero that came in this taringa that our listeners, koutou, ngai taringa, you can take back to the table.
Aye.
You can take into your work lunch. You know, to hear that, you know, if you're part of te reo, te Wānanga o te reo is part of the resistance.
Ana.
And all Wānanga, and all Māori learning institutions, kohanga reo, you're part of the resistance. Wakaama is part of the resistance.
Yeah.
Matatini's part of the resistance.
Yeah.
We're disruptors and we inspire each other. And I've found this highly inspirational. Tēnei kōrero. Never know, we always go into taringa and yeah, koe nei te mihi kia koe. I lay that challenge down to you, those of our listeners, to not just listen to this particular episode. Take the wānanga back to the whānau. Take the wānanga back to your friends. Have these discussions, you know. Go back and listen to it again and go back to listen to previous episodes. Kupu whakamutinga au e te rangatira? E mua e te whakakapinga?
Just to, you know, acknowledge you fellas actually for this platform, for the opportunity to be able to wānanga on these kaupapa, especially at this time of year as we're about to head in. As Kahurangi said, lots of things going down, and very much so that these are responses. These are our ways of responding to historical context, the diminishment of things. We respond to these things, and that's typical of us, that we respond.
Kia ora.
Thank you for the invitation. Just my apologies from my mate. She was unable to be here, but nevertheless, I think an hour, I could have left her for an hour easy. But yeah, much appreciated. And to all the listeners out there, just as Paraone has said, you know, if you're in a position, whatever it is you're doing, even if it's just making sure at this time during this economic climate that your whānau is fed, that you have a mahi, that you're contributing, you don't need to be a treaty specialist or anything like that. What you're doing in your own communities, amongst your own whānau, your own marae, is awesome. Keep it up.
Tēnā rau atu koe, kei te uri o kahungunuki wairarapa o tira tutai rāwhiti whānui, anei a taringa e whakamiha ake nei, e whakamānau atu nei, tēnā rau atu koe. Ngā manakitanga nui ki runga ki a koe, ki te huarahi kei mua i a koe, kia hua nui ngā āhuatanga katoa i mua i te aroaro, nō reira tēnei te mihi ki a koe, kei te rangatira.
Kia ora.
Tēnā koe, tēnā kōrero.
Nō reira, i te iwi koe rā te episode o Te Tiriti, ko tino hihiko māua ko Paraone i era kōrero ne tungane.
Ana.
Woo! All right. Thinking of other ways to resist. Hoi anō, tētahi wahine, she's a bit of a iho pū manoa when I think of someone who's a good disruptor and wahine kua roa e whawhai e aha tūrā nei. Mo te reo, mo te ahurea Māori ko moana maniapoto.
Pono taitoko.
And kātahi anoia, well, actually, te rātou, I puta i aia tana, I think it's like a revamp of her maharatia koe te rawaiata, a, e, I, o,
Oh, yeah, man. That's still a cool song.
It's time to, yeah, well, yeah, see, you guys can't see us, but our shoulders are popping.
Yeah.
She got Tiki Tāne on board and he helped her 2022, 23 it up. And I think I also like this because my husband's got a little bit of a feature on it. It's like 5 seconds, hoi anō.
Oh, cool.
Engari, koe rā tā tātou waiata hei whakakapi I tēnei. Hotaka nā reira whakarongo mai.
Ka runga I te waitaraka hoki ngā mahara. You know, and ka muti pē, kua refreshingia, ka muti ko whai wāhi mai e tehi kai waiata hou.
Ai.
Oh, ngā kai waiata o te wānei.
Oh, kia ora.
Yeah, so ngā mihi, tēnara wāti ko te katoa. And I think there's a fitting waiata to wrap us up. Waiata o te wiki tēnei hōtaka Waitangi special. And I just wonder if there's a little bit of a huri tao. Te tuahine, a little bit of reflection, and we don't want to unpack, but what's one takeaway for you from our Wānanga with JJ?
I mean, I think we're both going to say that we were both inspired when he started talking about forms of resistance, because I know that we both related to that very much so, in terms of, you know, the spaces we occupy with kapahaka and te reo, and often we don't think about those sorts of things.
Yes.
But I'm always inspired by people who like him, treaty specialists, and people who have spent so much time researching and unpacking it and then repackaging it for people
Tēnā koe.
like us, you know, and in tertiary settings and stuff like that. So there were heaps of takeaways, but I think the biggest thing is e mihi nui ki te hunga pēnei aia.
Kia ora.
Ai.
Tēnā koe.
Pēha koe?
One for me is just sort of going back to the start, that we're past like you can do all the treaty history,
Yes.
but we're in a space now where we need to be addressing the provisions of the Te Tiriti o Waitangi.
Yeah.
So e tautoko ana, you know, the way he repackaged everything and made it accessible for people to listen to and be able to take back to the dining room table or wherever to have a wānanga about.
Pono.
I mean, it was pretty clear.
Yeah.
And contextualising it. But one takeaway for me is, and it was a reminder really, don't dumb our tūpuna down.
Ah, kia ora, kia ora.
You know, to that age old that I didn't know what kāwanatanga meant. Puruhiti.
Ngari mō
You know,
tēnā.
don't dumb our tūpuna down. And, you know, and that's, me whakapono tātou ki a tātou, don't dumb ourselves down.
Ai.
I tēnei wānei. You know, tō tātou reo, e rāhua tanga katoa, ko taua tohe anō. So kia kaha ki a tātou. And number 2 I'm going to do too is
Oh, yes.
stop bloody tau kaikai wainga nui a tātou. Ei,
Tika.
ko tātou e whawhai ana ki a tātou, me whawhai ki te hunga, kei runga ake. That's where we should be using our energy,
Oh,
not
pono.
on each other, ki te tāmi a tātou. Stop pulling each other down. Let's lift
Rise.
all of us up together.
Rise.
Yeah.
No, tika hoki.
And resist together.
Because, you know, others are using it as a weapon. We shouldn't use it as a weapon amongst us.
Ana, koia.
Koia.
Yep, see, we want to keep going. Hoi anō, e te whānau, e ngai taringa, e mihi ake ana, anei rā mātou, e mihi ati nei. Nohora mai raro i ngā tauwhirotanga te mea ngaro. Kia toi te reo, toi te kupu, toi te reo Māori, toi kōrero tuku iho, toi ko tātou, anei e mihi ake nei, e mihi atu ana. Hei kona mai rā.
Ka kite.
Bit whakaronga pi kari kari. Gather up close everybody buddy. Taringa, taringa, taringa. Yeah, tahuri mai ki yo. Whakarongo ki te tangi a te kori mako. Kōrero flowing out the hooker force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds. Kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā kona whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira hira. Whakarongo pi kari kari mai. Hare hare mai, o taringa hare hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody. Gather up close everybody. Kani move that body. Kani move that body.
Taringa, he mea tuku nā te wānanga o Aotearoa, ā, nā te māngai pāho me irirangi te motu I tautoko. To listen to more episodes, search for us on your podcast app and subscribe, or follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Taringa, whakarongo mai.